Chapter 30 of the Life of Saint Teresa. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Anne Boulay. The Life of Saint Teresa by Teresa of Jesus. Translated by the Reverend John Dalton. Chapter 30. She resumes the history of her life, and mentions how our Lord remedied many of her troubles by means of St. Peter of Alcantara, etc. When I observed the little or nothing I was able to effect towards resisting these great impetuosities, I began to fear my having them, for I could not understand how it was possible that pain and joy could be united. That corporal pain and spiritual joy were compatible, I knew very well, but that so excessive a spiritual pain could be compatible with so extraordinary spiritual joy did quite astonish me. Still, I did not omit resisting it, though yet I had such little power in this respect that I sometimes grew weary. I armed myself with a cross, with the desire of defending myself from him, who, by his death, defended and succored us all. I saw that no one understood me, though I dared not to say so to anyone but my confessor, for then people would have had some reason to say that I had no humility. Our Lord was pleased to remedy a great part of my trouble, and for that time all of it, by bringing to Avila that blessed man, Father Peter of Alcantara, of whom I have already made mention, and said something of his austerities. Among other things I was assured that for 20 years he continually wore a garment of iron plate, in the form of a haircloth. He is the author of certain little books of prayer in Spanish, which are now much used, for, as he was well versed in prayer, he wrote very profitably on it, and gave excellent rules to those who practiced it. He observed the first rule of St. Francis in all its rigor, and did other things which I have mentioned before. When then a certain widow lady, who was a great servant of God, and a particular friend of mine, came to know that so great a man was there, and as she was also aware of my troubles, for she was witness of my afflictions, and had comforted me on several occasions, because her faith was so great, that she could not help believing I was directed by the Spirit of God, though all others thought I was deceived by the devil. She had likewise a very good understanding, and was very cautious in her words, and knew how to keep a secret. And to her our Lord was pleased to show great favors in prayer, and to give her a knowledge of those things, of which they who were learned were ignorant. My confessors gave me leave to treat with her on some matters, for she understood them in many ways, and sometimes she herself enjoyed part of those very favors which our Lord had bestowed upon me, together with having received certain instructions and admonitions which were very profitable to her soul. Without saying anything to me, she got leave from my provincial that I might remain in her house for 8 days, in order to be able the better to consult this holy man. And so, both there and in several churches I spoke with him often, on this first occasion of his coming to Avila, for afterwards I corresponded with him on many occasions. Having given him a short account of my life and manner of prayer, with the greatest possible clearness, I found almost at the very first that he understood me by experience, which was indeed the only thing I stood in need of at that time. For then I could not so well understand those things, at least so far as to express them. I have always endeavored, however, to treat in truth and sincerity with those to whom I committed the care of my soul. I also wished to make known to them even the first motions of my heart, and as regards those things which might, in any way, be doubtful or suspicious, I was wont to discuss them against myself with strong reasons. Hence I laid open my soul without any disguise or duplicity. Since that time, our Lord has been pleased to make me understand and to express the favors which His Majesty bestows upon me. But before, it was necessary to have a person who had experienced these things, if I wished him perfectly to understand me, and to declare to me what was the meaning of everything. This good Father gave me very great light, for I could not by any means understand what those visions meant, which were not represented by the imagination, and I thought also that I understood as little of those others, which I saw only with the eyes of my soul. For, as I have said before, those only which were visible to the corporeal eye seemed to me to be of any value, and of these I had received none at all. But this holy man enlightened me in everything, and explained all things to me, and bade me not to be troubled, but to bless God, and to be assured I was directed by his Spirit, and that, though it was no article of faith, yet nothing could be more certainly true, nor which I might more firmly believe. He seemed to feel much comfort in being with me, and he showed me every courtesy and kindness, and ever afterwards took great care of me, and communicated his affairs to me. Finding also that I had the same desires which he had already put into execution, and that I was likewise full of courage, for our Lord had given me great resolution, he took particular pleasure in speaking with me. Whenever our Lord brings anyone to this state, there is no pleasure or comfort which can be equal to meeting with such another person, to whom our Lord has given some beginnings of this same disposition. For then I had not much more than a beginning, by what I can remember, and God grant that I may have it yet. He had also very great compassion for me, and he told me that one of the greatest afflictions of this life was that which I endured, viz., the contradiction of good men, and that there was still a great deal for me to suffer, because I should always have need of help, and there was no one in that city who understood me, but that he would speak with my confessor, and with one of those also who gave me the most trouble, and this was that married gentleman of whom I spoke before. And because he had a great esteem for me, he attacked me the most. He was, however, a man of a tender and holy soul. And considering that lately before he had found out how wicked I was, he could not rest satisfied or secure. The holy man did as he said, for he spoke with these two persons, and gave them reasons and proof to show they need not be uneasy, and that it was proper not to harass me any more. My confessor needed few reasons, but the other gentlemen so many, that these were not altogether sufficient, though yet they served to deter him from terrifying me so much. We agreed that I should send Father Peter an account of the success I might meet with, from that time forward, and frequently to recommend one another to God. For so deep was his humility, that he valued a little the prayers of this miserable creature, and this gave me great confusion. He left me in possession of very great comfort and joy, and told me to continue my prayer in security, and to make no doubt that it came from God, but that whenever I was in any doubt, I should, for my own greater security, mention whatever happened to my confessor, and that then I might consider myself safe. But notwithstanding all this, I could not rest so entirely secure, because our Lord was still pleased to conduct me by the way of fear, so that I was inclined to believe my prayer came from the devil, when people told me that it was so. And thus no one was able to give me either so much fear or so much security, as to make me give more credit to either of them, than our Lord was pleased to infuse into my soul. Hence, though this holy man both helped and consoled me, yet I did not believe him so entirely, as to be without any fear at all, especially when our Lord sometimes left me in troubles of mind, as I shall now relate. But as I was saying, I nevertheless enjoyed much comfort. I could not then satisfy myself with giving thanks to God and to my glorious Father St. Joseph, who, I thought, had brought the good Father to Avila, for he was the commissary general of the convent of St. Joseph, to whom I used frequently to recommend myself, as also to our Blessed Lady. It sometimes happened to me, and so it does still, though not so often, to find myself in such excessive troubles of mind, joined with such violent pains and torments of the body, that I knew not what to do with myself. At other times I have been subject to corporal miseries, yet more grievous, but as I had not then such sorrows of mind, I endured them with great joy. But when they came both together, the affliction was so great that it pained me exceedingly. I then forgot all the favors our Lord had bestowed upon me. There only remained such a remembrance of them, as of something I had dreamt. And this only served to give me so much more pain, for the understanding becomes dull to such a degree, that it made me fall into 1,000 doubts and suspicions, thinking that I had not understood matters well before, and that, perhaps, I had followed fancies instead of truths, and that it was enough to be deceived myself without trying to deceive so many good men. I also seemed to myself to be very wicked, that methought all the evils and heresies which had lately sprung up were owing to my sins. This was a false kind of humility, which the devil invented to disquiet me, and to try if he could bring my soul into despair. And I know so well by experience that this is the work of the devil, that now, as he finds I understand him, he does not so often torment me.